and welcome to the Artist Behind the Music Canadian Country Series. Today we have Justine Blanchet joining us from Quebec. Welcome to the show.
Hey, how you doing?
So good. Thanks so much for joining me. I'm excited to chat with you and hear a little bit more about your story behind the music.
Yeah, thank you for having me, for sure. It's great.
Absolutely. Well, let's chat a little bit about your early days in music and what got you started in the music industry to follow that as kind of your main lead in life.
Yeah, for sure. Go for it.
Yeah, so let's go back. How did you get started? What was kind of your journey on getting into music? Were you born a singer? Did you have to work at it? What did that look like for you in your early days?
So for me, I started doing learning piano and guitar when I was 4. So, like music was already part of my life right from the start, which was amazing. Um, and my family and I were just musically oriented naturally. So we just, learned music and music was always playing here. So it was always the focus in my life. And we would listen to albums by Shania Twain, Amy Grant, Lady A, all these people. And they're part of my roots as well. So that's super cool. And what really pushed me to sing, I really was looking for, something to throw myself in, a passion or something, just to have, like a pastime kind of thing. So
Yeah.
back when I was 11, I ended up going to the hospital for 3 weeks because my appendix burst. And so I was basically like 48 hours away from dying, which is not cool.
No,
But it was this
so
whole, yeah, it's a big deal. And it was so 3 weeks in the hospital that I ended up spending. So coming out of that, I was like, okay, I get this like second chance to do something. So let's do something for real. Um, so since music was like part of my roots and being a country person at my roots, being outdoorsy and all these things, I was like, let's do music. But I didn't go to country music at the start. I actually started as an opera singer.
what?
Right? It
So
shocks
cool.
people all the time. But the technique is actually quite similar between country and opera, which is like shocker, right? Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, and I did that for like a year and a half or 2 years. I can't remember, but
Okay, that's so cool. I was just chatting
right.
with somebody else the other day, and they're also started off in opera, and now they're a country singer.
That's so
You
cool,
guys need to connect and do a country opera
right?
duet. I'll put you in touch.
Awesome. That's great. So yeah, I ended up doing opera for like a year and a half or 2 years, and then switched over to country music just because it felt more natural to me. And like Italian just wasn't my thing, and like I wasn't great at it either. But
That's
I went
awesome.
and did that for fun. So
So fun. I've never tried singing opera music for real. I've definitely, joked around with it. But
yeah, for sure. And like switching from country to opera is actually not that hard. For
interesting.
example, like yeah, the technique is so similar. So it's literally just like unblocking a new like thing. It's like it's really cool.
So you say it's so similar. Where do you find it being similarities lying? Is it in the way you breathe? Is it in the way you pronunciate things? How do you find them similar?
So the techniques is actually the way you place your larynx and the way you would seal up your vocal cords, all these things. Well, they're actually folds, they're not
Yeah.
cords. But yeah, so it's all these things, like these techniques that are so similar. And there's so many different, um, anatomy wise, in of what's happening. It's very similar from country to opera. For country artists, we probably like tilt, or there's like is it a glottal, anyway, there's like this whole term. It's been a while since I learned this thing. I was like 14. But anyway, there's like a certain position that you put it, and it's the same way for opera. So that singing country, which is like some people do it by using their higher voice, like their, not their chest voice, but their head voice. Some people sing it with their chest voice. Well, for opera, you use your head voice, but you do end up mixing with
Yeah.
your chest voice. So there's like different ways of getting it.
Very cool. I am a big vocal therapy, the anatomy of the voice really
Uh-huh.
interests me. Big nerd on that. So I am super excited to kind of dive into studying that a little bit deeper because I
Yeah,
find that
for
so
sure.
interesting. There's just so
Yeah,
much
the
more that
course,
goes on in the voice besides just
right?
what we hear, right? And I just find that all
Exactly.
very interesting.
Yeah, the course I took back when I was 14, it was a 40-hour course and it's called S.2 voice. It's only taught at certain locations and then they usually have groups come together and stuff like that. So back then I was the youngest person to take the course. There was so much information, like it was so intense. But it was, it was great for me to learn that going into opera and then switching over to country. So I still have the books and stuff.
That's awesome. Very cool. Very
Yeah.
okay, so what made you switch to country music then?
Yes. Let's go.
I think that's where we were in the story until I
Yes.
like took a side bend over to
Oh, that's totally
opera
fine.
music.
But yeah,
That's super
I ended up
interesting for that.
switching. Yeah, I ended up switching to country in 2015 and wrote my first song that year as well. And it just kind of went on from there. And we just released single after single. And I'm like up to my eighth one coming up soon. So
That's so exciting. Yeah,
yeah.
new single coming out.
Yes, it's coming out on radios on February 1st. So we're like really excited. This is the last stretch of promotion. And then we have a bunch of stuff after.
Oh, it's so fun. It's definitely such an interesting time for music over the past
Oh,
year.
yeah.
It's just been really cool to watch different people's journeys on what they're
Yeah.
still doing. Like music didn't die, even though like so much of our society quieted down. At least
Hmm.
nice to see just new ways of doing things and interacting and all of
Mm,
that kind of crazy stuff in this wild year. So maybe that kind of leads us into what 2020 until now has kind of looked like for you, and maybe just share some stories on what you kind of overcame, things that
yeah.
you've learned about yourself, about music, about life. Any insight you have, I would love to hear.
Yeah, for sure. Well, 2020 was a year of opportunity for me.
Mm.
Being a full-time student, being at home, it was a time to really like wind down and just, appreciate what's around you. And, like we didn't have that. Well, I mean, we kind of stayed home all summer. I ended up visiting a few friends, but it was all about just appreciating what you have around yourself and like trying to get the most out of your situation. So
Yeah,
and also 2020 brought on the founding of my agency that I started last summer, so that was a whole new thing.
let's hear a little bit about
And
that. What do you do?
yeah, so basically I'm a marketing consultant and I basically try to get in this niche where we have, I'm not sure if I'm just saying that right, if I feel like I'm
Yep,
saying it right, like niche.
yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's such a weird word, but yeah, I because growing up as an artist myself, I feel like there was missing resources and like having someone kind of like a mentor just saying yes you will encounter this, yes you will, this will happen and these are the right tools to go through this, and like instead of going through all these trials and errors, here are all the good things that the right way I did to get these, to get to where I was going. So what I'm trying to do is basically I have three main services. I help design websites because a lot of the time people are like, oh yeah, I need a website, and then like they make it, and then it's like, oh, that's not exactly what I was thinking. So like in terms of design, I can help with that, and in terms of functionality and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And then I also do social media training because as we've seen with the pandemic, if you can't do shows, where do you go? Like, what are you supposed to do? So a lot of people turn to social media, and a lot of people just went on there and didn't know exactly what to do. So for me to teach people how to use it, it's like this is such a big tool for them.
Yeah.
Um, and then the third thing I do is public relations. With the amount of years that I've been in this industry, I've gotten a lot of contacts, and like all the studies I've been doing in the past years, as well as in communications and marketing. Like I can do some press releases for any album or single releases. So these are my main three things that I do, especially for emerging artists that are trying to get their name out there.
That's awesome. I love all that kind of stuff is right up my alley as well. I absolutely love
Right.
it. Yeah, so exciting. And I think it's such a big part of music is the business.
Hmm.
And
Exactly.
I think a lot of artists or new artists, especially, just don't realize how much goes into building
Right.
a
Yes.
music career. It's not just writing songs and performing and, hopping on the
Exactly.
screens or whatever, but it's like,
Right. There's so much
oh,
promotion going around a single, like even just a single, like I've been doing singles for like the past years, but like I can't even imagine an album, which I'm thinking of releasing next year. But
Yeah,
side
you
note.
can start planning now. Like,
Yeah, right. But yeah, and like people just think that, oh, on the day of its release, like I'm gonna make a post and just say it's coming up, or like release a couple graphics and like that'll be it. And I'm like, no,
yeah,
there's like a whole thing you gotta do, because it's all about the hype. It's all about the social media, what you do and how much effort you put in this. That's what makes it believable, and like people will want to listen to it, you know? So.
yes, absolutely. Let's chat about what are your top 3 tips on releasing a single?
Okay, so my top 3 tips would be great graphics. Like if you do not have great graphics, like if they don't go with what you're trying to say, like no, that won't work. second, second is a great team. Like you need like a great team around you to help you promote and be the right people in the right industry. Like you don't want to be a country artist and just have like a pop producer, like pop music producer like that. No, that doesn't work. Like you need to get the connections. And number 3 would be networking. That would be my top thing. Like you have to be like everybody's a marketer, you know? So like you're just chatting people, just like mentioning, hey, I have the single coming out. I'd love if you make a post about it, you know? Like it's all about marketing your single, and it's just like creating this network of people and friendships and all that stuff that will lead you to something.
Yeah, for sure. I'm a big fan of all of those tips as well. Now, I know a lot of artists, they don't feel comfortable saying, "Hey, I'm blah 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 and I have a
Yeah.
new song coming out," right? So what are some
Mhm.
ways that you use for your own self to kind of push through that fear barrier of, "Oh, I don't want to brag, or I don't want to talk about myself," or
I
you know?
know, yeah. It was like that for me at first, because like a few years back, like when I started, my mom and I we like she was my momager kind of thing. Like so she would manage everything, and like growing up in a teenage as a teenager in the industry, it was like it's so uncertain as well, because you're finding yourself as well as like trying to make people believe that that's who you are. So like my mom would do most of the public relations and marketing stuff. So like she would do all this stuff, and I'd be like, okay, cool. Like I'll just write songs and do and do the social media part. Like so that was her job for most of the years. But yeah, in the last few years, myself, I've been taking on this responsibility, and I think the main part is just being able to believe in yourself, and just having that confidence that comes with time. Like you can't like force it, and just casually somebody could be mentioning on Facebook that they've been, I don't know, doing radio for like 12 years or whatever, like how many years they want, and I think it's amazing. And you could just be like, that's super cool, by the way, since you're like the best like radio guy that I know, I'd love if I could get an interview. Like you could just like throw it out there, and then it's up to the connection that you've made with this person to contact you after and go like, I'd love an interview. And it's all about maintaining relationships. And if you go to a networking event like the CCMAs, which is such an amazing week, and you meet these people, and like the vibe that you give them is not necessarily open, and like you're a little shy. Like this may be your personality, and that's totally okay. But like if you want these people to like feel like they can come to you, you have to give up that vibe as well. You have to be open and say, hi, how you doing?
For sure. And I think that's a huge hurdle for a lot of people, is to
It
just
is.
be like, I'm putting myself out there and I'm just gonna
It's
say hi.
hard.
Hi, I'm Crystal.
Right.
And it's not
Right, it's
difficult at
hard.
the end of the day, right? Just who are you and
Yeah,
what's your story? And I think perfecting your elevator pitch is
exactly.
one of the best things you can do as an artist.
Yeah, and it's practice makes perfect, like listening, well, not perfect. Practice makes better. So,
Practice makes
I don't like the sentence practice makes perfect, because no, you're never perfect. You're always evolving.
that's
But
right.
yeah, it is practice. Like listening to my first interviews, are you kidding? Like my answers were like so short and dry, and I'm just like, are you kidding? What is this? But like as you go on, you do find out, you get more and more comfortable with who you are, what and you just settle down into this person that you're like, this is me. And also growing up, I always struggled uh figuring out if I was an extrovert or an introvert. Like
Mm,
I was like, I'm an extrovert. Yes, I am. I'm totally an extrovert for sure. And like right now, you and I talking, you may be like, oh yeah, she's an extrovert, but I'm not. Like I'm actually a little bit more introvert than extrovert. So I'm like both.
I am as well.
So I'm a little bit of both.
Yeah.
So, but I'm a little bit more introvert. Like I do like my personal time.
Yeah.
Like I love just to recharge myself. But I also like to go out, just not a lot.
I know, I hear you. I find it so interesting. Just this past year, I'm like, well, it's been really great for like recharging my soul. Like I'm
Yes.
not
Are you
out in the
kidding?
crowds all the time. It's like, and it's funny too, because a lot of people have a perception of artists that we're all these big extroverts that want to be in the
Right.
spotlight all the time. And
Oh man.
and it's just that's really not the case amongst a lot of artists I know. Is just, you love your stage time because you're sharing your art, and it's about
Yeah.
connection of opposed to, hey, look at me, right? And it's a completely
Yeah, and it's very tough as well, to put out your own songs out there and be like, oh my gosh, are they gonna like it? Because I'm like exposing myself here. It's like standing naked on a stage, or like,
totally.
like a wardrobe malfunction or something. you know? Those things, and it's just like, oh my goodness, are they gonna like me? Are they gonna like the song? So it's very insecure growing up, and as I said, trying to figure out who you are.
Right, absolutely. And I always like to say vulnerability is our biggest strength, because when we
Right?
are vulnerable
I
to who
agree.
we are, we
Hmm.
allow ourselves to be liked or disliked, and that's okay
Exactly.
either way, because we're not for every single person out there. I mean, that's why
Hmm.
there's so many people in the world. We're here to
Exactly, right?
be different. Do you have any tools that you use to overcome that fear of, maybe somebody not liking something that you're putting out, or, just getting over that fear of hitting share?
Well, honestly, I grew up being like, my mom's like, she's a very strong-headed person, and that's who I am as well. Like, I'm very, like, if you don't like me, I don't really care kind of person.
And you're from Quebec, so I would say most people there are like that.
Exactly, right? So
Strange
yeah,
people
it was
have out there.
right. So like, you kind of have to grow into this strong-headed personality, because you will get all kinds of crap on the internet. Like,
Mhm.
there's so much stuff, and like, I tell stories, and there's so many of them to some friends, and they'd be like, "Are you serious? Like, what is that?" And I'm like, "Pfft, the internet, guys. Like, it's just the internet." So like, you
Totally.
kind of have to build a shell around you, and just, it doesn't matter ultimately, because these people, they don't know you.
That's right.
you know so like, they don't know the real you. They don't, all they see is posts on Instagram, and like, I could be lying to you guys. Like, I could be saying a bunch of crap on there, and you guys would believe it kind of thing.
Right.
But that's not me. That's not what I do for real. Like, I'm actually very very
Very
open and
honest.
honest.
Yes. I know.
Yeah, so like, one of my tools is just to, it's not necessarily a tool, it's more like a way of life, saying, like, I have some time in the day to, yes, post and interact on social media, either on my page or the Nova Media page, my agency. um but then after, if I want to go on Instagram, it's just a scroll. Like, I'm not going to look on my stuff. I'm not going to, I'm not going to be chatting to people. Of course, if it's somebody asking a question, a radio person, like, I will answer. There's no problem. But yeah, it's just setting apart social media and just being like, okay, this is my time to recharge, and just like get this negativity out of there. And
Yeah.
also, like, it's not like that every day. Like, you don't get a bunch of messages, like rude messages every day. So like,
Totally.
you outweigh which ones are really bad. And like, if, for example, if I've gotten like really really weird ones from older men, like, you just block them. Like,
That's
for
right.
real, if
It's not
if the
easy.
block button was a person, I'd probably marry it. Like, that would be my thing.
It's easy to block. No, that's not fitting my vibe.
Right,
So bye bye.
exactly. It's like my favorite button on the whole planet.
That's good. Well, we got to protect ourselves, right? And if that's
Exactly.
like emotionally, and you
Hmm.
don't want to read something, get it off your site. Give
Yeah.
it power.
Exactly. And even like, I love to take one day of the week and just have a me day kind of thing, where I'm doing like face masks, and I'm like, I'm watching my favorite series, and I'm taking baths, and like, that's like my day where I could recharge my body, like, and my mind. So it's like, it's not go go go, okay, we got to get this done. We got to, do these blogs, do these interviews, and all this thing, where it's chaos in the week. So I take this one day of the week, whether it's a weekday or a weekend, just to, shut it all off.
So important. So important, because if we don't have those, everything just bleeds together, and it just
Exactly.
all stays the
It's just one
same.
big chaos.
Exactly. We don't need to function like that anymore. And I feel like,
Exactly.
just even having this pandemic break from life, it's kind of really helped bring awareness to the importance of taking those times and slow down
Exactly.
the
I've
chaos.
actually really enjoyed the downtime this year. Well, last year.
Yeah, yeah, no, I hear ya. I hear ya. There are, yeah, lots of pros, and we'll celebrate those wins,
Hmm.
because there's lots of
Yes.
opposite of that happening as well. So
Right.
I'm a big fan of focusing on the positive, and that's where we
Yes.
are. And
For
on that note, I would love to hear you play.
Yeah, for sure. So, my first song, I'm gonna be doing two for you guys. My first song is an acoustic version of my next single coming out on radio's February 1st, and it's called Get Out of the Mud. Got my check from the shop today, looking so clean and pretty. That scent on the frame on the side of the door had me going crazy. So I took it out for a drive on that two-lane road. But I forgot that when it rains, like it did, it leaves a whole lot of holes. So I'm feeling stuck in the mud. Got my truck going in circles, and it says just how much bad times always feel eternal. We're all here to have a good time, not all lose our minds. So I threw that baby on pause so I could get out of the mud. Get out, get out, get out, get out, get out of the mud. Covered with dirt from head to toe, so sick got it up to here. All the tears, all those tears, I'm just thinking this was gonna be my year. So I grabbed my boots and started to walk home and pray. But I forgot that when it rains, like it did, at least a sunny day. So I'm feeling stuck in the mud. Got my truck going in circles, and it sucks just how much bad times always feel eternal. We're all here to have a good time, not for all lose our minds. So I threw that baby on park so I could get out of the mud. Get out, get out, get out, get out, get out of the mud. Thank God for all this dirt. If it wasn't for all the hurt, I wouldn't be so happy to be on this earth. 'Cause I'm feeling stuck in the mud. Got my truck going in circles, and it's just how much bad times always feel eternal. We're all here to have a good time, not for all lose our minds. So I threw that baby on park so I could get out of the mud. Get out, get out, get out, get out, get out of the mud. Get out, get out, get out, get out, get out of the mud.
Woo!
Thank you.
Awesome. I love that. Great song. And I love hearing songs stripped down in their acoustic ways.
Yeah,
as
they're
well.
super fun, like even just guitar.
Yeah, like I know, I'm like, I'm ready to dance. I'm ready to go to a party. Um, yeah, it's so good. So good. And like get out of the mud, right? I think that's a great
Uh-huh.
kind of message too about how a lot of people, well, I think everybody actually has had that feeling come up for them over the past year, just of being
Exactly.
stuck. So just to have that idea of, getting out of that and having some freedom.
Yeah, and this song sort of accidentally came out to be reflective of the year 2020. Like that was not my ultimate goal when I started writing the song, but then I was like, wait a minute, this song has so many like double meanings, and I was like, this is super fun. So like, let's go on this angle, you know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I love it. I love it. Did you find you did a lot of writing this past year?
Oh yeah, for sure. Like last summer, I usually do my writing like when I don't have school, so like holidays and summers, that's when I'm like most stress free. So I didn't end up writing my two latest singles last summer and a couple other ones, so got a bit of a full book.
Excellent. Well, that's awesome. What other song do you have for us today, and what's it about?
Yeah, so the other song I wanted to do is the other single I released earlier last year. So I released that in August of 2020. It's called Got Away. This song was kind of a comeback song for me. I did not make that explicit though. The year before that, going up to August 2020, I was dealing with a coming out of a toxic relationship. And you know, like I feel like every country artist been through this this whole thing where it's like, yay, there's a whole revival out of a relationship.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was definitely like a really bad relationship, and the whole relationship with my parents and my whole family, like that was, you know, done. Like that was destroyed. Um, so I really took the time between the single before Got Away and Got Away to rebuild myself as well as the relationships around me. So after that, I was like, okay, gotta get music back on track as well. So once I got this, you know, my state of mind back to normal, I started getting co-writes with people just to get my mojo back and all these things.
Totally.
Yeah, and I wrote a couple good ones. Well, actually, no, one good one, and the other ones all sounded the same, which was like, ugh, that's terrible. But I ended up getting this song, which needed to come out of my system. I ended up writing "God Away," and I was like, this perfectly represents the last year, like the last year up till my single before that. So like it really like, and it also makes so many references to nature, which is also very big in my life. You know, I'm super outdoorsy and all that stuff. So it's very like people compare this song to Taylor Swift songs, which I'm like, okay, is it because it's about a boyfriend? And people were like, no, because there's so many like nature and like it's very Taylor Swifty kind of song, I guess. I don't know.
Excellent. Well, it's a great tune. I'm excited to hear it stripped down.
Yeah, so here's the acoustic version. Just like water going down a river, it always leads to something bigger. Just like when two people meet, it's supposed to be oh so sweet. Yeah. Then you started playing your games. I knew it would end up in flames. Just like the leaves turn to gold, you became the old. I was so naive, but you made me believe that you were the one I should have run. You became the one. Got away, got away. Just like a wave about to crash in the ocean. We were headed for one big explosion. Yeah. Just like how the night got so cold. We were about to run out of road. Yeah. Then you started playing your games. I knew it would end up in flames. Just like the leaves turn to gold, you became the old. I was so naive, but you made me believe that you were the one I should have been. I became the one that got away. Yeah. Got away. Now here I am. I can dig it again. I can stop rolling, 'cause I know where I'm going. Just like the leaves turn to gold, you became me old. I was so naive, but you made me believe that you were the one I should have run. I became the one that got away. Yeah. And I got away. Yeah. Got away.
Beautiful.
Thank
line I love is just when the leaves turn to gold and the new becomes the old. I really love that line.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? It's
But
so good.
it's just that whole idea of transition, and things are always
Yeah.
constantly changing.
Yeah, and it
And
was about, going into a new season, you know?
yeah, I love it. And I think sometimes we forget that and we get stuck in an emotion and we think it's going to be that
Mhm.
way forever. And especially
Yeah.
hard emotions, I feel like
Mhm.
we really feel like they're not going to fade. And that song's just a really nice reminder
Right.
that things do
Yeah.
fade and change. And
Exactly. And like, every recovery, whether it be physical or emotional, is different for everybody. And like for me, the relationship that I had or not have, I don't know, lasted like a year, over a little bit over a year. So my recovery back to myself was, almost took as long as the relationship, just to undo every little knot in my brain. And I was like, okay, who was I really before the relationship? And that was really hard, trying to find who I was before. And I was like, I don't even know at this point. So, and it was also like, I was 18 and I was like trying to get back to who I was and also trying to catch up on lost time and get where I was supposed to be and all that stuff. And, like my family and I were very like we're go-getters. So like for me not to chase any dream for that whole time, and just be like, oh no, like I already know what I'm doing in my future. Like I'm married this guy and like that's it. Like that's what I'm thinking. For
yeah,
us, where our state of mind is so different from that, my parents were just like, "What is going on with you? Like that's not how we raised you. We raised you to, chase something, and if that doesn't work, chase something else."
yeah,
Um, so it's like all getting back to the state of mind, which is really where this is where I thrive.
yeah. No, and I love that. And I think, sometimes just knowing that we do go through these crazy experiences in life and
Mhm.
different people come in at different seasons to teach us things and to
Exactly. People
grow.
come and go.
Yeah, and I think sometimes it's not about discovering who you were before, but it's who am I
Yep.
today? Because all
Exactly. And like, yeah, and this relationship is part of my past. Like I wouldn't change it because it makes me who I am today. Like yes, I regret things that happened, but like not who I am today. So
yeah, and I just think that's a really good reminder, just knowing that
yeah.
crazy things happen, crazy people come into our lives, we make crazy choices sometimes, and they all happen
Right.
to help us grow. And as long as we kind of reflect and can learn and
Exactly.
take that and move
Hmm.
forward, I think it's okay, right? Like
Exactly. It
life.
all ends up fine.
Absolutely, absolutely. Especially with the go-getter attitude that you have, you're just boundless opportunities ahead.
Yes,
It's been
thank
so
you.
nice having you on the show. It's been such a great time chatting with you and just learning a little bit more about what you do, and love hearing
Yeah,
about
well, thank you
music.
for having me.
Yeah, you're so welcome. I do always love to wrap these shows up with the question, if you had one message to share with
Yes.
the world, what would it be?
Oh man, that's such a tough
So
question because there's a millions of things. One thing. Oh my gosh. Okay. I'd say that like if there's one thing you could do is always go beyond. Like always go beyond yourself. Always go beyond your capabilities. Always go beyond what you think you can do. Like if you like, I'm thinking like workout or whatever. Like that's the only thing, example I've got right now. But like if you think you can only do like 10 jumping jacks, do 50. Like, and that's like the same mentality for anything. If you think you can only do or get some kind of level of success, do more, like aim for more,
yeah.
because in the middle you'll end up in the ballpark. If you're shooting an arrow or something, you'll end up there, like amongst those goals.
Oh, I love that advice. That's a beautiful message to share. Yes.
Thank you.
So so good. Great way to end up the episode. And I think that really encompasses everything that we talked about today. So again,
Absolutely.
girl, thank you so much for joining me. And I can't wait to see what
Of
2021
course.
brings for you.
Awesome. Take care.